we start, I do have to hand over to domestic services, to democratic services, just to outline the housekeeping arrangements for this morning. I don't think he's on then. It just tells me to hand over, not what I'm handing over.
Thank you, Chair. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please take instruction from staff and stewards. The assembly point is at Tudor Square. Please can I request that everyone to switch mobile devices to silent mode so as not to disturb the conduct of the meeting. The meeting today will be webcast and the recording will be available for people to view later through the Council's website. It is also possible that Sheffield Live TV will record and rebroadcast this meeting. While ever the meeting is open to the public, photography, video and sound recordings of the proceedings is permitted. However, the Chair has discretion to withdraw or suspend this permission. For example, if the recording is disrupting the conduct of the meeting or is being undertaken in a manner which could capture personal information, or in the event that a member of the public participating in a meeting objects to being recorded. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa. I don't believe we have any apologies for absence this morning. The meeting is being webcast live and I don't believe there are any reasons why we should need to exclude press or public who are welcome to enter and leave at any time. Do any members have any declarations of interest on anything on today's agenda? If not, then I'll assume that people's memories are as bad as mine, so I'll repeat. I'm David Barker, I'm going to be chairing the subcommittee this morning. To my left are the members of the committee who will introduce themselves.
Morning, I'm Councillor Talib, Hussain, member of the committee.
Morning, Councillor Otten, member of the committee.
And you will notice several other people sitting around the room this morning who are the officers that are working with us. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Morning, Samantha Bond, Legal Advisor to the subcommittee.
Good morning, I'm Jane Goff from Licensing, here to read the report today.
Philippa Burdett from Democratic Services.
And can I ask you just to confirm your names just for the record, please? And can I ask when you speak if you will use the microphone in front of you? You just press the button. One for the webcasting, but two for my hearing as well. It helps. Thank you.
Claire Gilberthorpe.
Stuart Garner.
Brad Smith.
Ray Smith.
The process for these hearings is fairly straightforward. It will be at the back of your papers, but you'll note that at part 4 of that process, it says the solicitor to the committee will outline the procedure to be followed at the hearing. So, Sam, could I ask you to outline the procedure, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can I just check everyone's had a copy of the papers through? Lovely. If you need any spares, we have got some hard copies available, just in case you want to refer to any page numbers in there. So, the licensing officer, who's Jane this morning, will introduce the report. If there are any questions concerning the report, we can raise them then, just if there's anything missing or inaccurate, so we can get it amended for the record. There aren't any outstanding representations from responsible authorities, so we'll head straight over to the people that have submitted objections to the applications, just to detail their relevant representations. Members will probably have an opportunity for questions, and with the leave of the chair, the applicant may also ask some questions as well. Once we've done with that part, we'll head over to the applicant to detail the application, provide clarification on the application and respond to representations made both in the report and at the hearing here today. Again, members and officers can ask questions, and with the leave of the chair, the representations can also be cross-examined of you as well. So everyone can basically just have a discussion and ask questions of each other. We'll go to you to sum up the application, just to leave us with any final thoughts before we go into private section. Excuse me. So members can take legal advice and consider the application. The decision of the Licensing Committee will be given in accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003 and regulations made thereunder. Any time during the hearing, members can request legal advice. So we can do that in open session as we are now, or private, where we just ask you to wait next door. And we'll feedback once you're invited back in what that legal advice was, just so that we're all on the same page with that one. And as the Chair said, the hearing is in public this morning and being live webcast, unless at any point we determine that the public should be excluded in the webcast pause, but hopefully it should be relatively straightforward. And I think that's everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sam. So could we have the report then, please, Jane?
You certainly can. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending this morning for the premises licence grant application for Chapeltown Community Marketplace Chapeltown S35 2UU. So the applicants for this licence are Bradley Smith and Kimberly Seedhouse. The application was submitted to the licensing service on the 2nd of October, which you can see at Appendix A if you wish to do so. So Chapeltown Market has previously been granted a licence. It was by the subcommittee on the 14th of December 2020, but this unfortunately lapsed due to the company becoming dissolved, leading to the requirement of a new premises licence, which is why we're here today. Please excuse me. The applicant has requested licensed hours that are slightly longer or slightly later than those granted previously, and also included the request for regulated entertainment in the form of live and recorded music, but this has later been removed following concerns raised by the objectors and also deregulation under the Live Music Act. So that's not being considered now. There were some issues with the advertisement of the application, meaning that the consultation period had to be extended for the full 28 days. And the public notice also missed off the bank holidays and special events which were specified in the application, so only the standard hours for alcohol have been accepted for consideration today due to the advertisement. So the reasons for referral this morning is that we've got outstanding objections at Appendix B of the report from 2 local residents and Ecclesfield Parish Council. These can be seen in Appendix B, as I've just said. And we have had conditions agreed with Health Protection Service and South Yorkshire Police. These also can be found at Appendix C of the report. Everybody's been invited to attend today. I'll scoot down to the appeals section, Chair, if you don't mind. Otherwise, we'll be here all morning. The Licensing Act 2003, Section 181 and Schedule 5 makes provision for appeals to be made by the applicant and those making representations against the decision of the licensing authority to the Magistrates' Court. So the recommendations this morning, Chair, are that members carefully consider the representations made and take such steps as the Licensing Committee consider appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Have members got any questions on the report at all? Joe?
Yes, you've completely confused me now. You're saying that the timings on music on page 20 in the report are not correct.
They're not being considered anymore. They've withdrawn the application for regulated entertainment.
Right.
It's deregulated under the Live Music Act.
Okay, so the application is just to kind of
Just
open
alcohol hours.
and sell alcohol. Okay.
Yeah.
Do the applicants have any questions regarding the report at all? And I have to refer to you as interested parties because it's like, the interested parties have any questions on the report at all?
What is with regards to the music, what are they changing it to?
They're not changing. They're just not applying for it anymore. They're not applying for recorded or live music because of the times of the alcohol hours. It's automatically deregulated under the Live Music Act, so it's no longer licensable within those time frames anyway. But they removed it off the application.
No.
So, regards to when they do the event nights, which at minute is once a month, and they have a DJ, what times will that be to?
So where they've got the alcohol licence in place, should it be granted today, they can provide recorded music and live music and a DJ and things like that between 8 AM and 11 PM without needing a licence on top of the alcohol one, unless the audience goes over 500 people. So if you have more than 500 people, it'd need to be licensed either as part of this application, which would be too late, or under a temporary event notice, which would go to the licensing service. But because of the provisions that came in, it was about 12 years ago now, it's essentially where there's an alcohol licence in place, the premises can provide live and recorded music without needing the additional music licence, as it used to be termed, on top of that. So yeah, they can go up to 11 technically, but I don't think the intention's to go beyond 9 or 10 at the latest, as I understand it. half 8. Oh, okie dokes, that's helpful. Thank you. Hopefully that clears it up. It took me a long time to get my head around, so I appreciate if you've got more questions on it, that's fine.
So I'm still a little bit unclear. But what it sounds like now is that if we don't think it's appropriate for there to be live music after, let's say, 10 p.m. Oh, yes, the time isn't 10 p.m. anyway, but yeah, 9 p.m. let's say, then we shouldn't grant an alcohol license after 9 p.m. That's effectively what that's pretty much how it is. And I guess the further questions, I guess they come in at the meeting of the report. Okay, but I think that's enough for now. I think I'll come back.
Right, so it's across to you to detail your concerns then about this application.
So I suppose what our concern is the music is one of the major issues for us. The amount of times that we've had to ask for the music to be turned down because we can be sat in our houses, windows closed, and we can hear it still in the middle of the day and later on. I don't have children, Claire does. There's neighbours to ours who have children's work shifts. There's quite a few emergency workers who live on the street. And so, you know, the argument it's a weekend doesn't sit well with us because that doesn't mean anything to a lot of people now. And so our major concern is the music going on too late. We don't think that the current licence has been adhered to. So what's going to stop this licence being abandoned and music going on later? There's other things like we were told certain things like the back gate wouldn't be left open onto Smith Street. It's constantly left open. We have people leaving that way onto Smith Street. There's been issues with toilets, issues with mess afterwards. We've had, and I'm not saying it all coming from the market because it is close to the centre of Chapeltown, but that just adds to it that now we've got another thing that might spill out onto what is a residential street. Claire's probably got more because she lives right opposite from me, but she sees that more than me. But it's the noise and the aftermath of when people leave is what we see more of. And I think with it opening later, that's just going to increase for us.
Oh, sorry, I'm nervous. I'm not a public speaker. So, with regards to him not adhering to the licence now, there's numerous posts on Facebook which I've printed off which state that they're till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 8:30, which theoretically at the minute it should only be till 8 o'clock. So that is my concern going forward. If they can't stick to the licence that they have now, would they stick to the new licence going forward? Because I feel 10 p.m. Opposite my house, outside, if they get the alcohol licence, and then with the music, if that coincides, when it's the DJ nights, it is very loud. If it was summertime, then that would result in maybe not opening the windows, even choosing to go out those days, so you're not at home, so you don't have to listen to it. I was promised last time that the gates would be closed and not locked for a fire exit, which is fine, because then that does block some of the view, because my window is bang opposite this gate entrance, so whether I've got curtains open or not, it does bring more noise, but when my curtains are open you can see bang into my house, which feels like an invading my privacy really. There is also, like you say, antisocial behaviours. With the gates being open, people are accessing onto our street, and we do have occasions where people's cars are getting damaged, and it's not by car users, it is by members of the public, which are obviously intoxicated, which is not just from the drinking from the bar at the market. We have got a lot of pubs in Chapeltown which do have outside seating available, if that is what the entailing is for it to be an outdoor venue. We do have around 9 bars, which most of them have outdoor seating where people could drink, which is not on people's outside people's doorsteps. We're not against the market, and we feel like it's been put in the Star again, and I had a lot of hassle back in 2020, where I just got told to move if you don't like it, but that's my home, that's my family home. I shouldn't be made to feel to move, just because when I moved, I asked before I moved, is there any planning permission for that area? And they went, no, because it's next to the train station, there'll be no buildings, nothing ever like that. It's just, it's not about me even having the alcohol licence, it's the time. I just feel 10 o'clock is late. And it's not that we want to be, people are saying that we're boring or we're against it. We're not against the market. We're just against it being at 10 o'clock on our doorstep. If people put these comments, and people have put these comments on the Star who have worked on the market saying we're all for the market, but we understand the residents of how would you feel if it were on your doorstep till 10 p.m. And we just want people to know, and even Brad, we're not against the market. I've never been against the market. And we get made out to feel like we are, and we're not. It's just, I feel if you got it till 10 p.m, like, you know, the sold nights once a month, so we know it's happening. But what's to say that you might then do one every other week or every week, and then it becomes a bigger thing every Saturday night. And all I've ever asked is to communicate. Even if you just sent a flyer out once every 6 months with dates that you know that you've got planned, such as your Scarefest or your Christmas market or your Friday late night opening market. So residents on the street are aware that it's going to be happening later that night. And originally they had to put a 10s licence in. They had 10 additional days where they had to apply for if it was out of their licence. And I don't know if any of them have ever been applied for, or how do we even find out if they have, when these events have gone on till 9, 10 and they've clearly been advertised. That's my concern, is just the 10 p.m.
I think that's the key thing for us. We're not against the market. I was very supportive of the market when it started opening on Saturdays. I think it's more the alcohol licence later on, you know, so these stories that have somehow got into the Star that make it out that we're against the market are not true, and that's upset us as residents, the fact that we feel like we've been targeted, that we're against the entire market, and it's turned a lot of people, and we've had a lot of nasty comments towards us because of that. And it's not that we are for the market, it's just this is not the market, this is the bar, and this is it staying open later with drink and music, and that's what we've got the concern about.
Thank you. You have valid concerns, and the reason you're here today is so we can see whether we can resolve those. It's not a case of anyone pointing a finger. You know, you have your views, you're entitled to those, and you know, it's helpful that you come and express them to us so we can make the right decision. So please don't. I'm sorry that you know you've had that hassle. I'm afraid such is the life of the internet, isn't it, where people can just sit there and type these things in without thinking of the consequence of it. But you certainly, you know, from our point of view, we welcome the chance to consider these matters. So what I'm going to do now, I'll open this up to questions, and we'll start with questions from members. Joe, is there anything you'd like to ask at this stage?
Yes. So, I mean, just going back to the question of music and the time to which it is played, am I right in thinking that we could grant an alcohol licence with a condition on what music is played? No, not what music, but when music is played, what kind of music, when music is played up to, and when it can be amplified up to? Is that something that's within our gift here? Yeah.
Bow to the legal advisor on this.
Ooh, that doesn't look good, does it? Is it me? Am I on? Am I okay? It's just flashed up something weird. Yeah, so any conditions in relation to the regulated entertainment, so the music between 8 AM and 11 PM, if the alcohol licence is granted, would be disapplied. So they wouldn't have effect until after 11 PM or before 8 AM, or if there were more than 500 people on site at any one time.
Sorry, that's a no. We can't put that in.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And in terms of noise, maybe this is the same no. I mean, other venues coming before us, they're told to close the windows, aren't they, if they're in buildings, and they can be told to put in noise limiters or to have, we send out the noise people to see what sort of noise they're making. Does any of that apply here?
So the more general conditions about noise breakout, or sort of if premises are asked to put notices up requesting residents to leave quietly, they can be put on and would apply for the whole term of the licence. But if it was to be music can't be played above X level between 6 PM and 10 PM, that wouldn't apply. Obviously, if the licence is granted, there are problems and it's looked at again, then the deregulation can be taken away so that we could impose those conditions. We could restrict the hours for the music if it showed that there are problems with it going forward. But at the time of the grant, then they couldn't be applied. But the more general sort of noise nuisance or ASB conditions could be applied for the whole time that the premises are licensed for.
Right, I think I understand that. So, I mean, this is the thing. Let me put the question to the applicants then. I mean, I think
Questions for the interested parties.
Oh, for the interested parties, sorry. Right. No, I don't think I do have any questions for the interested parties.
That's the interested parties.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear you made in a way to move out from your, street. It's a really difficult to understand. But can you tell me, have you reported any incident took place to police? Any incident in that last license?
No, not to the police. I know I've asked for music to be turned down to the either the signal box or the Chapeltown market when there's been music going on too late or it's too loud, either early on in the day or late on at night. I'm not sure if Claire, if you have.
No, I when it were tracks, I had many issues with tracks in regards to, my main issue is the gates, people coming in and out, because recently there was a van on there that was offering deliveries for food, so there was a van coming in and out of that access, and that were advertised up until 9 PM, and that was not part of the original market that takeaways would be offered. And we were always told that people would go out via Market Street, not onto Smith Street. So yeah, I used to message him in regards to can you do that, but I've never actually made any formal complaints because I don't want to get into that vicious cycle of having to report them all the time. I'm not that kind of person. I just want a happy life, but maybe going forward, that's something that we might have to look into doing.
When you complain to the licensee, have they cooperated with you to deal with those issues?
That was back when it was under the control with Trax Market, and I didn't really see eye to eye with Paul, who was doing it at the time. So sometimes the responses was not the greatest. They were done via email when they were applying for the first licence, and I actually got an email sent to me which shouldn't have been sent to me. They didn't realise they'd linked me into it. They thought I had a hidden agenda into regards to the market and the area, but I don't know what they thought my hidden agenda were. But such as regards to when it's been going on later at night, no, I probably should have reported it. But it is all over their social medias that they are advertising things till past their licence now, and that is my worry going forward.
The social media incident took place now for this license, or is the previous license?
So social media's, so there's two things. I've complained from social media through like Facebook Messenger direct to ask them to turn it down, and I've got to say 95% of the time that's something that has happened and they've managed to respond to that. But I shouldn't have to sit there every night and go, oh, that's too loud, you know, we can't. Or my neighbour, I know she used to complain quite a lot to them about that. The other bit about the social media is where they've advertised in events which is outside of their current licensing, and which is something that we've looked at and thought, well, we were told it was 8 p.m.
There's been quite a few.
And there's been quite a few, and we just don't know if that's...
I've printed off the copies, actually. This is just in this year's frame of how many events have been advertised after the 8 o'clock. It's rather been 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10 p.m. And that is my worry going forward, that if they're not adhering to the licence that they've had now, will they adhere to a licence if they got it till 10 p.m? Where would the land lie of, if this is your time that you cut off serving alcohol and playing music, what time do they actually have to have left the venue? Because it is open air.
Thank you.
If you could just help me back just a bit more about it. So, how often are you disturbed? What are the sort of key issues that are really sort of impacting on you at the moment?
The main issue is when they do their events nights, which is at the minute they do a Northern Soul night through, I think it's April to, is it September, I think. So they do that once a month, which that is when the issues with the music comes in. So when they're playing like recorded music, I don't know if that's like with a tape or something, you can't hear that. It's when they've got the DJ. And even though the DJ is situated at the far end of the market away from the street, you can still hear that within your house. And then there's some houses on the same side of the block and they can hear it quite a lot because it echoes through with it being open air. So that is the main concern, is the 10 p.m.
There has been some instances when there was one recently where I had to, and it's mainly the summer, I've got to say it's mainly the summer when it's probably more busier and they've got more music, where at 9:30 and I've got Whitney Houston coming out at me and I'm still in bed, and that's not on a Saturday morning, and you're just thinking that's not the best, you know, to be woken up to that. And I think obviously they were getting set up and stuff and they wanted some music to listen to. But it's things like that, and it's just that you want to be able to know that, you know, like the music through the day is not an issue. When the market's on, it is ambient. You can, if you go outside, you can hear it. You've got your windows open, you might be able to hear it.
It's more when they've got
events on and the music's on. And if our worry is that's not going to stay the same if they're opening till 10 o'clock at night and they might have more DJs, more live music, that's going to disrupt a lot of our, our life really.
They might have more events nights. So the last Northern Soul night they did in end of August or September. A week later they did an 80s night. So they had it again the week after. So that's my concern, is at the minute it's only once a month. So you can kind of plan, well, I'll choose to go out that night. But when you don't know when it's happening. This is why all we've asked is when there are event nights, if we're informed, then it's up to us to make that decision. Do we stay in our homes or do we choose to leave? But 10 p.m, I think, when you've got young children, is quite loud on your doorstep.
So if the previous licence had stayed in place and was being operated as per the conditions of it, would that have caused less problems? You think it's operating later than 8 o'clock is causing the issues?
I think because it's going past 8 o'clock, it then gets a lot of people's backs up, because we know the current licence is 8. and it's not always being followed, and it's quite advertised all over their social media page. And then I do get residents on the street saying, do you know what's happening? Because not everybody is on social media, so they don't know why it's going on till 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, when theoretically it shouldn't, unless they've put a TENS licence in, which I believe they have to inform South Yorkshire Police and the parish. But I've contacted Exclusion Parish to find out if any TENS licence have been put in, but nobody's ever contacted me back.
Just to interject there then, Chair, in terms of temporary event notices, they get served to South Yorkshire Police, Health Protection Service, which is health and safety, Environmental Protection, which is noise nuisance. So there are 3 teams that have to be, by law, have to be notified of the TENS. If there is some sort of agreement for Ecclesfield Parish Council to get a copy of them, that would be something internally agreed with them, but they're not an actual responsible authority, so to speak, so they don't have to serve a copy to them unless they've got some sort of agreement with them that they would, but I don't know that. That would be just something separate.
I was just made aware on the last one that that's what it stated in the bottom, that who they needed to contact, but such as regards to residents, none of us have ever been informed. So this is where it comes hard to communicate, because in our eyes it should be done for 8. We don't know if a TENS has been put on for it to be on till 9 or 10. And this is where it comes into play of, it's all about communication, really.
That's where that agreement would have to be made with the applicants themselves to say, out of fairness, would you inform us when you put one in, or some. Again, legislatively, they don't have to inform anybody. That's just kind of how it works, which is no good to residents like yourselves, but that is what the legislation says. So by all means, you can have that discussion, and that can be an agreement made between yourselves. That's absolutely fine. And moving forward, it sounds like that would be a common sense thing to do. So that would just be an agreement between yourselves to do that. But again, like I said, nothing formally in law says that they have to advise anybody apart from the 3 teams. So.
And just really follow up on that point. Has there been any consultation that you're aware of with residents about this application above the notice that's been displayed?
No, there's been none whatsoever, which I was surprised by, because me and Brad did speak back in the summer, and he never mentioned that he was going to apply to extend the licence till 10 p.m. Because I think he would have known. I would have said something then, and that's what's upset me, really, because we did talk, because he even asked my opinions on how to make the market better, so we're a bit disappointed, really, that he felt like he didn't talk to me, or went. I feel like he's gone behind my back, really, and the post had just got put up without us being aware.
And just a final thing from me, you mentioned some sort of gate that it seems can be closed and might help resolve some issues. I wonder if you just tell me a bit more about that and how closing that would be of benefit.
I've got a photo I can show you. So basically, my living room window, you look straight out and it's the entrance to the gym, which is then the market. There's 2 metal black gates with lines up, so if you close them, it basically stops the view coming straight into my property. And that's, I was told last time when it was tracks that the agreement was they would close the gates but not lock the gates in case they need it as a fire exit.
And do they act as a barrier to noise as well? Would they help reduce noise?
No, not at all.
The noise, that won't stop the noise at all with it being open air, but the gates are drivable. You can get they're really there for access for the vehicles to get into the market, which is fair enough. At the beginning of the day, they have to open them up. What you find is they're just left open, and people just walk in and out from, Market Street and that. And to be honest, when it's the market, it's not as busy. You don't get that people. It's when it starts to fill up with people just there to drink, which I think there needs to be a distinction between people going to the market and people going there to the bar and the music. And that's what we're worried about is later on, if those gates are left open, you've got music going on till 10 o'clock, because I think the music for the market during the day is generally quieter, but you've got more noise around you. You've got people, there's a lot more cars on the road, it's Chap in general, but that music's not going to stay at that same level once it starts. People, you know, stalls are potentially closed. You've got people there just drinking, and from 8 o'clock at night until 10 o'clock, there's not much traffic around there then, and it's just that music's going to be amplified. People are going to come in and out of that gate.
Thank you, that's helpful. Sam, is there anything you'd like to ask?
I think you briefly sort of touched on some antisocial behaviour issues. So you said with people walking past and causing damages to the cars. Do you get problems when people are leaving the market sort of later at night, or even during the day, I suppose, as well?
I couldn't really say if it's just from the market. It can just be from, like you say, we have numerous pubs in Chapeltown. There's an alleyway that people sometimes use. So you do get people passing up and down the street, and people's cars have been damages. I'm not saying that's targeted from the people at the market. It could be from numerous bars, numerous people really. But we're just worried, obviously, with the gates being open, it's more access for people to access onto Smith Street when that weren't the agreement back in 2020.
We have had people decide to relieve themselves on the street, and they're coming out of that market. So that's been a little bit of an issue for me and some of the people who've mentioned that. And we have had cars damaged, like we said, but we can't say if that's definitely from the market or not, but it just doesn't help the fact.
So if the gate was shut, there'd be a reduction, would you say, in the amount of people going through, or hard to tell?
I think if they were closed, which the access should just be onto Market Street, then people wouldn't be coming, accessing straight onto Smith Street.
Thank you. I think I'm not massively familiar with the area, so I've just kind of been going on Google Maps and Street View, but it looks like the majority of licensed premises are to the Market Street and Place side, rather than yours just being purely residential, isn't it? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Do the applicants have any questions? You will get the chance to respond to the concerns and to detail your application, but do you have any questions for the interested parties at this stage?
The only thing that I'd like to add is, like, when you've asked around us working out of hours, there has been tens put in for that. We have stayed within the licensing law.
So, now it's back to you to detail your application and to respond to the concerns that have been expressed.
Yeah, firstly, I'll apologise directly to Claire. Since summer, I've been off work with personal issues and stuff like that. I've been around the market just to make sure things are going okay and things just nipping in and things. My sister's been sort of overseeing the bar issues, but obviously with me being off, that's put the strain on people being at the bar. People looking out for the bar sort of thing and the market. The reason why we've gone for the 10 o'clock licence is to cut down the amount of tents that we have to put in. Also, we do night markets as well. What we wanted to do is we'd have say Northern Soul. The music would still stay up until 8:30. Then it'd be reduced down to from 8:30 reduced down lower, and then further reduced at 9 o'clock, and then shortly completely cut off at 9:30, so people can gradually filter out of the market instead of a mass. Well, we're saying mass, it's not that, is it? So everybody's like sent out of the market onto Marketplace, and that's where antisocial behaviour can be, when there's people meeting in one area sort of thing. So it's basically to control the people leaving as well. That's why we've got the it sort of like come from the louder music and then brought it down as gradual. so people leave naturally and things. With the Smith Street gate, reason why it's being left at, like, we don't lock it in case it is used as an emergency. But we do have people that have got disabilities, so it's used as an access. One of our volunteers used as a motorised wheelchair, so that's an access point for people with disabilities and buggies as well. We try and keep on top of closing it as much as possible. We also, when music is on, we've got a sound monitor. So we walk up and I go across the road onto Clare's side of Smith Street, and throughout the day I regularly use the sound monitor to make sure it's no more than 65 decibels at the roadside. We're also looking at different places where we could put the DJ as well, because different things will change how music's carried as well, so it could be the weather conditions and stuff like that. So we are constantly looking at things around that. The other concerns is we are in the process of building a bigger toilet block, but the people that tend to come to the events at the market tend to be, say, 40 plus, mainly families. So there's going to be some crossover with the antisocial behaviour that you're seeing on Smith Street from the existing bars and things like that than what's coming from the actual market. We can keep that gate closed, but if people do need access, like say a volunteer to come in, chair and stuff like that, that's where we've got to keep on top of it and keep going down and shutting it back up. But other than locking it, people will open the gate, sort of thing. It's yeah. Is there anything else that I've missed there or anything?
We can open it up to questions anyway, so we can tease out anything else that we want to know. So, are you happy for me to open it up to questions then at this stage?
Yeah.
So, Talib, you want to start us off?
Thank you, Chair. Interested party raised the concern. You advertised events on social media, the time allocation, later than time allocation or time the licensed for. So how often did you do that, and what's the reason?
When it's advertised later, we'll put a tent in. So there's been night markets. So we've had a couple of night markets, and there's been the 80s event as well. So it's been adhered to by licensing buyers putting the tent in. We can create a flyer at the beginning of the year and send out and stick to that flyer, so residents do know when we intend to have such events on. That's not a problem.
Thanks. Yes. So, I mean, it strikes me you've got kind of two different businesses going on here. You've got a market during the day, and you've got a kind of music and drinking venue, like a pub, effectively, during the evening, but pub without the actual pub, if you see what I mean. Is that fair?
It's run with the market with the bar there, and then we'll have we have stalls on when we have like the Northern Soul, the stalls and food on and things like that. The Northern Soul starts at 3:30 in the afternoon and runs up until music by the DJ up until 8:30, and then we reduce it down at 8:30 till 9. But there's still stalls on there, so there's the market still running.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So the two kind of businesses I talked to, they kind of blend into each other during the afternoon. That makes sense. I mean, do you recognise that in a residential area, drinking and entertainment usually happens inside buildings with windows that you can close, and and possibly with door. Do you have security? Do you have bouncers? You don't. And often with door staff to control sort of unruly behaviour on the way in and out. And there are reasons for these things, and we have, it feels like, do you not think we've accidentally arrived in a situation where you can run that kind of business in the open air with all of the impacts on the neighbourhood that the way the rules normally work, we try to avoid?
Can you repeat that again? Sorry, I've sort of missed what you're saying there.
Sorry, I suppose, yeah, maybe it wasn't a question, maybe it was more of a comment, but the kind of business that you're running towards the end of the evening around music and drinking and entertainment, and which typically involves some unruly behaviour, which many of the businesses catering for that kind of, offering that kind of service will be inside buildings with windows that close. They will have door staff on. And there are reasons we have those things inside buildings and with door staff. Do you recognise that there are reasons for having that kind of offer in that kind of venue?
Yes, we do. While we've been operating, we've had no issues, and we have said that on events we can put a member of door staff on there if needs be. But we do shut off. We don't intend to go past serving alcohol past 10 o'clock. It is, yeah, that's, yeah.
And in terms of the volume of the music, I don't know. I mean, we've not obviously we've heard complaints about that. We've not got any kind of definitive evidence either way as to what the extent of the volumes. I'm not saying to you, look, these people are definitely right. But again, how can you give us any undertakings, I suppose, is the question, in regards to the volume of the music that might be, in a way that might be objectively measured, to ensure that the nuisance later on in the evening doesn't reach a level which, you know, you or I would want outside our homes?
We go with the sound monitor to make sure that it's no more than 65 decibels at the side of the where the residents are. So that's within the guidance set, and again, when we spoke about weather conditions and stuff like that, because that can carry the music set differently. So we do adjust. We turn the speakers away and things like that, or turn it down. And yeah, so I'm constantly on the DJ about knocking the music down. Yeah.
Thanks. And we don't have environmental health here, but I don't know if Jane, if you can comment on the 65 decibel thing, if that's a
Not my remit.
Is that the sort of, no, I know. But is that something that we can kind of rely on?
I can certainly look on licences to see what, because there is a set decibel level, that, like a condition that's set on many licences that EPS asks for when there are live and recorded music on the licence. I'll have a look whilst you're talking, because I don't know off.
Thank you. Okay, that's me.
When I've rung up around guidance and stuff like that, they've sort of said, well, because the old guidance was from some stuff from, well, we were running off things that were set in place in COVID when they were bringing in the weird and wonderful rules then. But when I've asked for some clarity on it, we're told it's so that you can speak to another person without shouting. And that's all that we've been told. So we're stuck to the 64 decibels at the roadside as being what is acceptable.
What sort of, how important is alcohol to the business? Is it a big part of your sort of income, or, you know, is it just, if you could just expand on that a bit?
It is a added bonus for the income, but it enhances the market, because it's not then, it's a place where people can come down and shop, and they can sit, have something to eat and things like that, and they can have alcohol as well. So where traditional markets have failed, we're trying something different to enhance the market, and stallholders do say that it makes a difference when alcohol is being offered. It's not a big drinking venue where people stay in there and have 3 or 4 pints. It's where people come in and have the odd pints, unless it's one of the Northern Soul things, where that's just where people will come in and have a couple of drinks.
And just to revisit Joe's point a little bit, you know, people and alcohol don't always mix well. And did you say you've never had a problem with people?
The older people that tend to that come to Northern Soul tend to be 40 plus couples. It's quite a relaxed atmosphere, and we've not had any reasons to call the police. And a couple of years ago, when we first started, we did have a couple of issues where we ironed that out in-house, and that were mainly around people bringing their own alcohol in. Then we can't regulate it, so we have to stop that.
And are you aware of the concerns that some residents have and the issues that they've experienced from the operation of the market? And if so, you know, how have you responded to those concerns?
Firstly, the main concerns were around parking for the market, and that's something that I've spoken many times with Claire about. But the alcohol side of it, the majority of people leave out onto the centre of Chapeltown, not onto Smith Street, and where residents asking around the gate and stuff like that, we are using that just as an access point for. It's there to try and make it easier for people with access issues. So people using wheelchairs and stuff like that that are coming from that end of Chapeltown can get in easier. The concerns around the music we've responded with, but it seems to be that any amplified music that may happen around that area is put onto the market straight away. We had someone contact us to say that, and I made Claire aware of it as well. Someone contacted us to say that the music was on at 12 o'clock at night. Now, I was the person that locked up at 9:30 that night. There was no music coming from that market, and there was no way that anybody could have got access to it. It's just that there were amplified music in the area, so it must have been the market. It wasn't us. I was the one that locked up, and if there's no way that music could have been accessed or put on at the time.
And if someone was to have a concern about the operation of the market, how easy is it to raise that? You know, do people know is there a contact number? Do people know who to contact? How does that?
On social media, there's my contact number on the market page, and it's also on the signal box page. When I first took over the licence when it Wonder Tracks, I sent out a letter with my number on there to say that any problems, please get in touch with us.
And it does sound like there's, for reasons that you've explained, there has been a bit of a breakdown of communications recently. What are the plans to sort of improve, you know, communication with local residents and market users?
Well, there's a flyer that I can send out with everything. I've already got the what we would like to do for next year. We've already got that drawn up, so that can go out. There's numbers can be on there. Mine and Kim's number can be on there. We can open it up to consultation if needs be on certain things. Like we're coming to, sort of like after Christmas, January and February, they're the quieter times for the market because of the weather and stuff. We could have a space where we could get space where we could invite residents to come along and try and work with us.
I think that's all from me. Sam, is there anything you'd like to ask?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's literally just to follow on from that, and it might not be a question, but certainly when you were here last, you know, you sort of admitted there was a lack of communication. You understood that it was important going forward, but I think what we've heard again is that's not really happened. Certainly not over the last few years, I would say, potentially, or is it just more since the licences?
We've had one letter when Brad took over the market, because it's been took over from someone else from Tracks, and then Brad took it over, so he did send a letter with his contact details out. But in regards to him applying for this new licence or any events that are past 8 o'clock, no residents have ever had anything through their doors.
Would you sort of agree with that? That yeah, that's been the case.
When we put in the application to extend the hours, that was roughly when I sort of got unwell as well. So it's been the timing's been off, sort of thing with that.
Thank you. When did the licence expire? Sorry.
The original licence expired, it was 2023, I think it was. Yeah, 2023 when the previous people dissolved the thing. But I think that's where there's a slight mix-up because, like Claire mentioned that there was some email which were copied into, that was under different management, but it wasn't to do with why we're here now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously I think I spoke to Jane earlier and there's been sort of 1 or 2 tens put in over the last few months just to cover that period while you've been waiting for this to come to committee. The events for December, so Saturday and then the 21st, are they under a 10 as well? Or is that in the hope that this will be granted today? Right, okay, so it's sort of provisional on that. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it tends to happen in December, everyone starts running out. And when you've submitted the temporary event notices in the past, have you ever had anything back either from licensing or the police or any other parties sort of asking you to do anything differently with it, or have they just been approved as applied?
Off memory, I think they've just been approved.
But I think that's everything, thank you.
Can I just ask, with regards to the access, I believe that there is access on the front for people with mobility issues to access. So I don't think that is the gates on the back for that kind of access, really. In regards to the music cut-off times, if it was approved, would that be set out in the licence? That's my main concern, is the music being played late at night, and the events nights at the minute are only once a month, but there's nothing set in stone that they could turn that into every other week or once a week, and that is my concern.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before the applicants get a chance to sum up the application?
In regards to, so depending on what licence they get, if they need to apply for any TENs, how would we find out as residents what's been put in place?
Would you like to respond to that question?
With the TENs, we can communicate that with the bottom of Smith Street when we apply. A copy could be sent. I suppose when it's submitted, is it not put online with Sheffield City Council?
Good question. we all look blank.
It's on our database, which is accessible. I don't think TENs go on a formal register though, as far as I know. I think it's mainly like grants and the larger applications that get put on the public register. But
Yeah,
it's publicly available. If people want to ask about it, it's there and we can access it, but I don't think it's formally put out there as a list, as far as I know.
Yeah, the problem is there's no legal requirement for public consultation on them, and we as a committee only get to hear about them if one of the statutory agencies objects to it or has concerns. So, but it certainly sounds like there's an offer that TENs the company would be happy to consult with you on the 10s.
Would you find a WhatsApp group something that useful just for the bottom part of Smith Street with the
I think some, like I know for certain, there's some people that don't do social media, whether they're on WhatsApp, I don't know. We do have a lot of people that rent, so sometimes the turnover is, depends how long they stay in their properties, because there's at least 1, 2, 4, at least 6 or 8 at the bottom that are rented, so if they were to change hands, it's keeping whether they want to give you their contact details, or would it just be easier just to put a flyer or like you say, just a letter or something with a 6-month schedule of what you've got planned, so they kind of know what times until.
So, would you like to, is there anything else you'd like to tell us in summing up your application?
No, just in response to Claire, that's not a problem. We could get a flyer out with everything on and with our agenda and stick to that sort of thing. And but it is we're trying to enhance Chapeltown by offering the market, but we need an extra door to the market, and that's where the alcohol does play. It's not a massive part of it, but it's an option for people to come down and have a drink. And again, where Smith Street are saying that they're not working, they're not there against the market. We're not against Smith Street. We've got to share the area. So I think improving this communication would be is key to this.
So could we have the options then, please, Jane?
You can. Sorry, I was just emailing colleagues for the decibel level, so I'll come back to that shortly. So the options available today to the committee are to grant the premises licence in the terms requested, to grant the premises licence with conditions, or to reject the whole or part of the application.
Could I ask you to now leave with the licensing officer while we take legal advice, and we'll come to a decision on this. And if you want to say, as soon as we've made that decision, we'll invite you back in and tell you what it is. You heard me, didn't you? We're not bothered about the webcast people out there hearing me. But thank you, it is helpful. The decision of the subcommittee this morning has been to grant the licence as applied for, but with a couple of additional conditions on there. We're going to extend the condition that you agreed with Environmental Protection, which is around notifying them of any special events or DJ events 6 weeks in advance of that event. And we'd like to extend that to local residents as well, so that they have sufficient notice of these events. We're also going to condition that for any events where music is being played, that the gate is kept shut at all times other than for urgent access. The reason we've come to this decision today is that, as was explained earlier, music isn't a licensable activity, and it's very difficult, well, it's impossible for us to take action on something we don't license. However, should there be any issues with this licence, and this is where Licensing Act is strong, then if you come back to us with evidence of that, we can reconsider this, and we may come to an entirely different decision. And that may mean that if it opens tonight and causes you problems, inform licensing, come back to us, and with that evidence we can do something about it. As the licence isn't currently in operation, then we can't really say, yes, definitely there are issues there that we can actually tangibly do something about. The other thing that we can't condition, but we would strongly encourage, is that lines of communication are reopened. This is important in ensuring that it's seen as a part of the community, and the community need to be involved. And quite often issues can be resolved without the need for these formal meetings if you talk to each other. And if you do come back before licensing again and that communication hasn't happened, then it won't reflect particularly well on yourselves. But I'm sure that need not be the case. And I hope that you don't need to come back here, because it operates responsibly, and all parties can kind of get on and not disturbed, that you get a reasonable night's sleep, which you deserve. If that's not the case, then do come back. But I say, I really hope that won't be necessary, and I do thank you all for your contributions this morning. That's the decision. I believe it is appealable, Sam?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So following the hearing, everybody will receive a notice just confirming a summary of the evidence, what was considered, setting out those two conditions and how the members came to that decision. So within 21 days, if you did want to appeal, you can use that notice and lodge it with the court, and they will basically sit as members have done today, look at the application as it stands at the date of that hearing and decide whether members made the right decision or not. But as the Chair said, hopefully, you know, you open those lines of communication again, and that does resolve the problems that you've experienced so far, and hopefully it's a little bit clearer now with the licence being in place, and that you'll be informed of temporary event notices if you do need to submit any. So hopefully it does resolve the issues for you, but as the Chair said, you can come back to licensing if that's not the case. But I appreciate everyone's time this morning, and especially in this freezing cold room, so thank you very much for persevering with that.